Hello, welcome to Tier Nerd. This time I'm going to review anime that start with the letter D. And there's actually quite a few of them. This is not the whole list. I'm actually going to split it into two videos because apparently there's a lot of anime that I've watched that start with the letter D. I was kind of surprised. So A, and D are very popular letters. So let's see, where do we start? Um, Let's start with D Greyman. Yeah, I have it at the beginning here, so let's start with that. So I split it into two parts: the original D Greyman and then D Greyman Hollow, or Hallow. I think that's what it was. Let me see. D Greyman Hallow. Yeah, D Greyman Hallow. So the original D Greyman, I'm giving an A. I thought it was a really good anime, very solid. Um, a little bit creepy. I'm not really into some of the more, just any time it gets kind of creepy. I'm just not really into that stuff. I'm not into horror, anything gruesome. I like action, but as long as it doesn't get too weird. And D Gray Man gets a little weird sometimes, but other than that, it's still a pretty solid anime. Um, yeah, I enjoyed it. The character development. It's kind of dark. Kind of sad at times, but you can tell the stakes are pretty high. I think in D Gray Man, like there's some anime where you can just feel like the overwhelming odds against the main character, and I forget to mention it sometimes, but D Gray Man is one of those where like you can tell like the enemies are powerful, and you can see that it's an uphill struggle. So I thought D. Greyman really portrayed that very well. The struggles of the main character, and so yeah, I think it's a good A-tier anime, very solid. Unfortunately, the anime took a huge break, and it took many years, and then they made a sequel, which was nowhere near as good. I think almost like a C tier. I just did not enjoy it as much. It was only like 13 episodes. The original Degree Man was like 100 episodes, and it was good. This Degree Man Hall is like 13 episodes, and it took many years for it to just get that much because unfortunately the author of the manga got sick, and she didn't really write that much, and she took a break, and she had to change her schedule, and because of that, the anime didn't really, there wasn't a lot of content to use. So Degree and Hallow, just, it felt like they kind of rushed it. They just took a bunch of chapters together and they sped it up and tried to cram it all in like 13 episodes. That's what it felt like. I didn't really want, I didn't read the manga. That's what it felt like, and it just wasn't as good. Like it actually got kind of creepy. I don't know if it was just a bad arc, but I just did not really enjoy the storyline of Degree and Hollow. It just felt rushed, and the this part of the story just felt kind of creepy, and um, yeah, it was just the creepiness really showed in Agreement Hollow, and I just did not enjoy it nearly as much as the sequel. The original I thought was great. Okay, then let's see what else we got. We got two Danganronpa. So I decided to break up Danganronpa into two. Even though Danganronpa isn't exactly a long anime, they're only like 13 episode seasons, or like even shorter, like 12, or they're like 11 or 12 episodes each. Um, I split them up because the characters are different in the two Danganronpas. So first we have Danganronpa one, and this is the first one I watched. I watched it before playing the game. So first I watched this anime, and then I played the games. And I thought it was a decent anime. I think it's deserving of A tier. Some people don't like it as much. They would probably rank it lower. I think my opinion of it is a bit higher than what a lot of people's is, but I thought Danganronpa was great. Despite the whole battle royale aspect and everything, and you think it's kind of dark and everything, like it's got the whole Hunger Games battle royale thing going on, but I still thought it was great. I just thought it was a decent anime, very interesting, and it just got to the point. This is not one of those animes where they stretch things out. They just kind of got to the point, and it was pretty interesting throughout. And this is actually, that's why I ended up playing the games. This was my introduction to it, and I like the anime, so I ended up playing the games afterwards. Then we have Danganronpa 3, which I don't remember. I think it's about the same, honestly, in quality. I mean, Danganronpa 3, because they never. Yeah, let's see. I mean, what's the official title? The official title is Danganronpa 3. So, um, Danganronpa 2 never got an anime. I don't know why. Like, I mean, Danganronpa 2 is great too. I don't know why they never made an anime for Danganronpa 2, but Danganronpa 3 just has an anime. And the actual game Danganronpa 3 actually has nothing to do with the anime Danganronpa 3. So now that I think about it, that's probably a huge point of confusion now. But yeah, so this Danganronpa 3 anime was also good. They split it up into two parts actually, into Mirai Hen and Zetsubo Hen. So like the hope arc and the despair arc, and they're both decent. Like there's some weird parts of it. It is kind of dark, but overall I thought it was a decent anime. Um, probably. I mean, the first one I like more probably because I watched it first, but I think they're both pretty solid. I'll give them A tier. Let's see what else. Now we got Danmachi. So yeah, this is another one of those popular anime, and that I'm. This is one of those popular anime that I'm torn between giving high C or low B rank. Um, Honestly, I think it has potential. I think that's why I'll give it a B because I do believe it probably has potential. I only watched the first season. Maybe I would probably get. Maybe I'd like it at some point if I watched more, like second or third season. But I don't know. It unfortunately falls into the generic isekai trap that a lot of other anime fall into. Even though it's not an isekai, but it has that same cheesy, cringy fantasy anime with harem aspect. Like after a while, it's just kind of dumb. Like, and I don't know why it is more popular than the others because there's a lot of anime that do the exact same thing, but Danmachi somehow ends up being more popular than a lot of these other anime that are considered being cringy. When Danmachi is just as cringy as all these other anime. I'd say it's a bit overrated, but still rather decent anime. It was interesting. I mean, I like the whole aspect of going into the dungeons. So for those wondering, Danmachi is kind of like the short title because the long title is really long. Like a lot of these anime that are seem to be based off of like light novels or something. They have these ridiculously long titles. So, people just call it Danmachi, or, is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? Like, that's the actual title of the anime. Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? And yeah, it's interesting. It's got a catchy title, so people end up watching it. And, you know, it's a kind of a clickbait title, basically. The actual anime, it's okay. It's okay. It's like a comedy. But got some action to it. So, but yeah, it's a bit overrated. Um, then we got. Let me give you this whole title of that one: Danshi Kokosei no Nichijou. All right, so this is this next anime. So the daily lives of high school boys. Let me do. Yeah, okay, good. We can see everything now. So this next anime, the daily lives of high school boys. This one I kind of enjoyed it. Like maybe high B tier. Like it's either high B tier or low A tier, but it's kind of a solid one. It's a comedy and a bit weird at times, but I did enjoy it overall. Um, it's not. Yeah, I don't know what to. So the daily lives of high school boys is a pretty interesting anime. Um, I would say it's a comedy. Plus, less a bit of a slice of life, and the comedy's a little more like it's on kind of absurdist in a way, kind of like Nichijou and Azumanga Daioh. So it's pretty interesting. Like it's one of those times where I actually do think Japanese comedy is funny, which is not always the case in some anime. But like Gintama is a little over the top, but this anime is still it's still fairly good within bounds. So I think I'll give it a high B tier. Maybe low tier, but I'm not sure it's quite there. But I think high B tier is very fair, as opposed to Danmachi, which I would say is probably like low B tier, like down here. So, but yeah, it's a fairly solid anime, kind of funny, short, maybe like 12, 13 episodes, but it's a solid entry. Okay, now we're getting to to the big leagues. Death Note, yeah, Death Note's like S tier, yeah. So this is one of those times where I do agree with popular opinion. I do think Death Note's great. It's a good classic. It's a bit dark. This subject matter is, yeah, it is dark, and deep, kind of depressing at times, which is not only something I'd watch, but I still think Death Note is an amazing anime. It's a murder mystery, and just how much there's a lot of depth and thought put into the anime, and it's very gray. It's not black and white. Like this is a high level mature anime. It's like it's one of those times where like you kind of question, like, is the main character in the right? And to this day, there's still arguments. There's still people thinking that Kira was right or L was right, and yeah, like Death Note, just one of those animes. It's just one of those anime that's just a classic, and people are just going to continue to watch it and discuss it, and it's great. So I highly recommend it. I mean, if you haven't watched it, then like, I mean, if you've been watching anime for any length of time, you probably have. But if you haven't, then I definitely recommend it. I mean, there's a reason it's the most popular anime on my anime list. If you look up my anime list, Death Note is number one, and it has been that way for a long time. Attack on Titan is getting really close to overtaking it. Attack on Titan's number two right now, but for now, Death Note's been king for a long time now. So Death Note, yeah, definitely, like, if you haven't watched it, definitely watch it. It's not even that long. It's like 37 episodes, and very concise, to the point. And it's just great. Like, it always keeps you interested. Like, you just start watching and you just keep watching it. It's like that's a trademark of S rank anime. It's like you just watch it and you just keep watching it. Like, you can just binge it easily, and you don't have to take breaks. You just keep watching it. It's addictive, yeah. And I don't say that about very many anime. Then we got Death Parade. Death Parade. Let's see. I think I want to give it A rank. Maybe I'll put it higher than Danganronpa. Maybe lower than Greyman. I don't know. Like, it's good. Like, Death Parade is very solid. Once again, it's also dark. Like, I'm kind of surprised. Like, I'm not really a dark, depressing, emo type person, but I have noticed that a lot of my top ranked anime are actually very dark. I was kind of surprised, but yeah, and Death Parade is actually one of those. Yeah, a lot of my top 10, a lot of my 9 and 10 out of 10s are actually a little on the dark side. But see, Death Parade is pretty good. Like, it's very thought provoking, very deep. It basically takes place in the afterlife, and people are basically being evaluated on how they live their life, and they kind of think about their life. And yeah, it's very deep. Yeah, I thought it was going to be like a battle royale type anime or something like Danganronpa, but no, it's actually not that at all. It's just this very deep philosophical anime, and I think it's a solid A rank. It also has a very, very misleading opening. The opening for Death Parade is pretty good, but it's extremely misleading. I've never seen a more misleading anime opening than for Death Parade, because that anime opening is just so jolly and happy, and the anime itself is nothing like that at all. Very, very misleading anime opening. So we got that. Then we got next we got Dororo. Dororo is also very dark, depressing. I don't know if I should give it A or high B. Like, it started off really good and dark. I kind of lost, like, I don't know. I kind of started losing interest near the end, but it is very solid and very dark. Like, once again, I don't know why I keep running into all these dark anime. I think I'll put it in A, but kind of on the low end of A. I think that's what I'll do. But Dororo is solid. It's actually really old. I hear it's a remake of a very old anime. Actually, this is like a remake of like I forget when the original came out. It might have been like the 60s or 70s, and it's based on a very old manga actually. And so this Dororo, basically the main character is trying to regain all of his lost body parts. He was cursed at birth, and he basically starts off as like a mute and blind, and all of, basically missing a lot of organs and body parts. And the story, it just has him reclaiming lost parts of his body, and he goes, trying to regain it and hunting down all these demons. And the concept is very interesting, and just the fact that the character basically a mute for most of the anime and just blind, and it's just very, very interesting concept and very unique anime. Also a bit on the dark side. So notice a lot of darkness. I'm kind of surprised. Look at all this S tier, A tier, all of this just dark. All this very depressing stuff. I don't know. A lot of anime that start with D are just dark, I guess. Um, let's see. Then we got Doctor Stone. Doctor Stone's another A. Is it better than D Greyman? I mean, I don't know. D Greyman, I guess, have some nostalgia for the old one. I think I want to put it. I think definitely higher than Death Parade. Yeah. I mean, there were times when I kind of lost interest in Doctor Stone, which is probably why it's not like higher. But I think it's a solid A tier. I think if I'm being fair to Doctor Stone, it's a very unique anime. Um, Kind of like I haven't really seen anything quite like it. I mean, it's a solid A tier for sure. It's probably one of the most popular anime, I think, a year or two ago. I forget what year it came out, but it's recent. There's a second season. I've already watched it. It's good, like it's solid. Basically, it's the future, and everything's been destroyed, and he's trying to use science, his knowledge from our era, and trying to recreate it in kind of this in kind of like almost like these prehistoric, like very tribal, like basically there's no technology, no nothing, and he's trying to recreate everything from scratch, just using his knowledge. And so, I mean, it's a little over the top at times, but it's just you can actually learn some interesting science by watching Doctor Stone. It's very interesting anime. Like it's just amazing, like how much he's come up with. Like he's a genius, kind of like Akira and L, but kind of like in a different way. But yeah, it's very, very interesting anime. Doctor Stone, highly recommend it. Very unique. So notice that's the quality that a lot of my high ranking anime have, is that they are unique. They're not generic, and they're just interesting to watch. Basically. Finally, we have Durarara. No, wait, Too Many Raidas. All right, so Durarara, I think. Durarara. Yeah, I think that's how you say it. There's too many Ras. So I split it into two sections. The first one is going to be the first season, and then the second one I'm going to talk about is going to be everything after that, which I think it's like three mini seasons of like 12 episodes or something. But so because I have very different opinions of the first season and then everything that came after that. So I think this is the. Did I get him switched? I think this is the original one, or that's the original one. Hey, let me check. Yeah. Okay. So this is the first one. This is the first one. Okay, good. I'm back. Um, so this one, dude. Yeah, I think this is fair. I think I'll put it maybe the mid B tier at best. It's a bit overrated of an anime. It's got an interesting concept. Great giant cast of characters. The storyline is just all over the place. Storyline is told in different perspectives, and it all kind of it's sort of out of order. This is just one of those animes that tries to be different, like Bakemonogatari, because they just try to be different, and there's an appeal to it, but at the same time, if it's overdone, it becomes annoying. So yeah, this it's unique. It was interesting. interesting concept with the different storylines. And the first season is interesting just because everything's new and it's different. So I think that's what the anime had going for it. So that's why it was sort of B-ish tier. The second season though just lost all of that completely, and basically all the good qualities of Durarara just kind of went out the window, and the cons of the anime, the weaknesses of the anime, this started to show up later on, and you realize that basically they just kept repeating the same old stuff, and the storyline just got worse and more boring, and just extremely cliche and cheesy. Really, by the end of it, very cringy by the end. So it just kind of lost everything. Like it actually almost made me think worse of the first season, even though the first season was still good. The second season just lost all of it, and this is a common problem with a lot of anime. The first season might be good, and then the second season just doesn't bring anything to the table. Basically, the second season onwards just kind of loses it. Nanatsu no Taizai is pretty much the same thing. Seven Deadly Sins had the same problem, where the first season was decent, and then it just kind of lost it because the uniqueness, the originality just wears off. You realize that it's the idea is good, but it's hard to maintain it for a long period of time, and that's why a lot of second and third seasons tend to fail. And it's kind of rare that a show, I mean, not kind of rare, but some shows manage it. Some shows manage to have a good consistent quality across multiple seasons, but not all shows. A lot of shows do just fall apart after one season, and Durarara is pretty much the same thing. It just falls apart. So second season, I think it's pretty fair to give it C tier. I can't really give it higher than that because it's kind of bland. But I can't remember which ones. But yeah, they're both pretty low on the list. Then finally we have Aegis of Uruk. Yeah, Tower of Druaga. Yeah, Tower of Druaga, Aegis of Uruk. So I'm putting both seasons together. Um, is it higher? I don't know if it's quite A tier. Upper B tier, maybe. I thought it was a pretty solid, interesting anime. Good cast of characters. Yeah, it just has that nice fantasy, like kind of like an old school fantasy feel to it. It just generic class like mages and fighters and all that. And I like that. Kind of like in Record of Lodoss War, and they go to dungeons and stuff. So I just like the concept of it, and it's interesting. The whole Epic of Gilgamesh thing to it. It's that it got that whole, I forget what is that, or and like the Babylonian. I even forget what that's called. But basically, that old some of that old mythology. It has some of that. It has some of that inspiration from it, which I thought was pretty cool. So I think it's a good, solid fantasy anime. Maybe high B tier. Um, it's kind of generic in some ways, but I still think it's a very solid anime. So I think I'll give it upper B tier. So yeah, this is my ranking of anime that start with D. Part one. There's also a part two. In part two, I will be talking about Dragon Ball and Digimon, because two giant franchises that I split up into multiple sections just because there's so much to talk about and they're so different. And so I did a separate video just on Dragon Ball and Digimon. So yeah, see you next time.